Sarah Chen walked through the long halls of Nexus Station. Her shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. She carried a small bag with Earth's flag pin on it. Today would be important. The Galaxy Council had called humans to this meeting. They said it was urgent. The meeting room was huge. 12 different alien species sat around a circle table. Each species looked very different from the others. The Veltari looked like living crystals that sparkled in the light. The Nethians were like floating clouds of gas in clear suits. The Zephyrians had long necks and purple skin. All of them watched Sarah as she walked in. Sarah took her seat. The chair felt cold. Nobody smiled at her. The room was quiet except for the humming of air machines. She looked around at the alien faces. Most of them looked serious. Some looked angry. A few looked like they thought they were better than her. "Ambassador Chen," said Veltar Moonwhisper. He was the main speaker for the council. His crystal body made bell sounds when he moved. "Thank you for coming. We have important things to discuss about your species." Sarah nodded. "I'm listening." Veltar stood up. His crystal body caught the light and threw colors on the walls. "The Galaxy Council has been watching humans for 50 years. We have seen your rapid growth. We have seen your wars. We have seen how you solve problems with force instead of talking." Other council members made sounds of agreement. The Aquatic Depths representative gurgled something in their water tank. The Insectoid Collective clicked their mandibles together. "We are worried," Veltar continued. "Humans expand too fast. You take planets without asking permission. You build ships that carry weapons. You do not follow our rules about peaceful contact with new species." Sarah felt her face get warm. "We follow the basic contact rules. We don't attack peaceful species. We defend ourselves when attacked." "That is the problem," said Counselor Thix from the Insectoid Collective. Her voice sounded like clicking beetles. "You think of defense and attack. We think of harmony and peace. You are too violent for civilized space." The Corvan representative leaned forward. "The Corvans look like large lizards with 4 arms. Human ships patrol our borders. Why do you need so many weapons?" "Pirates," Sarah said simply.
"Slavers."
"The Corvan Hive attacks merchant ships. Someone has to stop them." "We handle such problems through discussion," said the Nethian cloud being. Their voice came through a speaker box. "Violence only creates more violence," Sarah almost laughed. "Discussion? While innocent people die? While children get sold as slaves? These are growing pains of a young galaxy," Veltar said. His bell-like voice sounded patient, like he was talking to a child. "In time, all species learn to live in peace. Humans are simply too impatient." The council leader activated a holo display. It showed maps of human space. Red marks showed human colonies. Yellow lines showed trade routes. Green dots showed military bases. "Look at this expansion," Veltar said. "In 50 years, humans have claimed 200 worlds. You have built bases in 40 systems. Your trade ships reach every corner of known space and we explore." "We trade, we help people," Sarah said. "What's wrong with that?" "You do not ask permission," said Dr. Sil'enth from the Academic Consortium. She looked like a tall, thin bird with 6 eyes. "You do not join our committees. You do not follow our procedures for expansion approval." Sarah shook her head. "Your procedures take 10 years for each planet. People need homes now. Refugees need places to go now. We can't wait for committees to debate while people suffer." "This is exactly what we mean," Veltar said. His crystal body glowed brighter. "You think you know better than species who have lived in peace for thousands of years. You think your way is the only way." The room got quiet. Sarah could hear her own breathing. She looked around at the 12 alien faces. They all stared at her with the same expression. They thought she was wrong. They thought humans were wrong. "The council has made a decision," Veltar announced. "We offer humans a choice. You can join civilized space properly, or you can face the consequences." A new holo display appeared. It showed documents with lots of text. Sarah read quickly. Her face got pale, then red with anger. "These are our terms," Veltar said. "First, humans must stop all expansion beyond the Outer Rim territories. Second, you must share all FTL technology with the council. Third, you must submit to cultural rehabilitation to learn peaceful ways." "Cultural rehabilitation?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "What does that mean?" "Human children will attend council education centers," Dr. Sil'enth explained. "They will learn proper ways of thinking. They will learn to seek consensus instead of taking action. They will learn patience and respect for authority." Sarah stood up fast. Her chair fell over backward. You want to take our children? We want to save them, Veltar said calmly, and save the galaxy from human aggression. In return, we offer protected species status. Humans may keep 3 colony worlds under council supervision. You will be safe and peaceful. 3 worlds? Sarah's voice cracked. We have 200 colonies. Millions of people live on those worlds. They will be relocated, the Corvin said. The council will provide transportation and housing. Sarah stared at them. You're talking about forced relocation of entire populations. That's what we call genocide. We call it civilization, Veltar replied. Many species have gone through this process. They are grateful now. They live in peace. Sarah looked around the room again. These aliens really believed they were helping. They thought humans were dangerous animals that needed to be trained. They couldn't see that their perfect peace came from crushing anyone who was different. What if we refuse? She asked. The room got very quiet. Several council members looked at each other. Veltar's crystal body made a low humming sound. Then humans will be declared a hostile species, he said. Trade embargoes, travel restrictions, if necessary, military intervention. Sarah felt something cold in her stomach. You're threatening war. We are preventing it, Veltar said. Accept our generous terms and humanity will find its place in our civilized galaxy. Refuse and face isolation until you learn wisdom. Sarah picked up her bag. She looked at each council member one by one. They all watched her with patient expressions. They were so sure she would surrender, so sure humans would give up their freedom for safety. I need to discuss this with my government, she said. Of course. Veltar nodded. You have 72 hours to provide an answer. Sarah walked toward the door. At the threshold, she stopped and turned around. I have an answer now, she said. Her voice was calm and cold. Go to hell. She walked out. Behind her, she heard surprised alien voices talking at once. She didn't look back. In her room, Sarah sent a priority message to Earth. She included the full council demands and her recommendation. Then she started packing. Within 6 hours, every human in council space got the same order. Come home. The next morning, Nexus Station felt empty. All the human shops were closed. The human maintenance crews were gone. The human security guards had left their posts. Human ships were already jumping to FTL, heading home. The Galaxy Council had made their offer. Humanity had given their answer. Now everyone would learn what happened when you tried to cage a free species. 3 months had passed since the humans walked away. Veltar Moonwhisper stood in his crystal tower on the Veltari homeworld. He looked out at the peaceful gardens where his people meditated in perfect harmony. Everything was as it should be. The humans would return soon, ready to accept wisdom. They will be back, he told his assistant, a younger Veltari whose crystal body was still growing. Humans are emotional. They act without thinking, but they need trade. They need the Council's protection. They will see reason. His assistant made soft chiming sounds of agreement. How long do you think they will stay angry? Not long, Veltar replied. Perhaps another month. Then their leaders will realize they made a mistake. They will apologize and accept our generous terms. But the months kept passing. No human ships appeared at council borders. No messages came from human space. The silence stretched on and on. On Kepler Station, Counselor HFY of the aquatic depths floated in his water tank. He was reviewing trade reports and feeling confused. Something was wrong with the numbers. Trade volume was dropping across the galaxy. Supply chains were breaking down, but why? His assistant, a young aquatic who still had bright blue fins, swam up with more reports. Sir, the Merchant Guild is asking questions about maintenance contracts. Many systems are showing warning signs. What kind of warning signs? HFY asked. Gravity generators, atmospheric processors, communication relays. They all have countdown timers. The timers say license expires in 90 days and seek alternative providers. HFY felt a cold current run through the water around him. He had forgotten something important. Many of the galaxy's crucial systems were built by humans. When humans designed things, they always included security features. Only human technicians could maintain human-built equipment. He called the chief engineer for Kepler Station. The engineer was a Corvin with scarred scales and tired eyes. Chief Engineer Grex, HFY said. We need to discuss the station's infrastructure. Grex made a growling sound. What about it? Everything still works. For how long? I see warnings about licensing and maintenance contracts. The old Corvin's forearms moved in what humans called a shrug. Human-built systems. They put timers in everything. No humans, no maintenance. Simple math. Can other species learn to maintain these systems? Grex laughed, but it sounded bitter. You want to know the truth? We tried. Sent our best engineers to study a gravity generator. You know what they found? The humans didn't follow any normal design rules. They built things that shouldn't work but do anyway. SciFi felt the water around him get colder. What do you mean? Human engineering is like human thinking, Grex explained. They take shortcuts. They make guesses. They build things that work good enough instead of perfect. Our people can't understand how to copy that. Similar conversations were happening all across Council space. On Raxus Prime, the agricultural systems were showing red warning lights. The Raxians called in expert engineers from 3 different species. None of them could understand the human-designed farming equipment. The Veltari tried their mathematical approach. They spent weeks calculating the perfect theoretical solution for maintaining a communication array. When they applied their theories, the array exploded. The Nethians formed committees. They held 17 meetings to decide who should study human FTL drives. By the time they chose a research team, 2 more months had passed. The research team held 12 more meetings to decide how to begin their studies. Meanwhile, reports kept coming from the edges of Council space. Human colonies beyond the outer rim were thriving. Independent traders brought stories of massive construction projects. Humans were building something big out there, but nobody knew what. A Raxian trader named Keld visited the human world of New Terra. When he returned, he brought disturbing news to the Council. They act like nothing happened, he reported to an emergency session. I asked about the negotiations. They said, what negotiations? And they're too busy building new cities and exploring new worlds to think about us. Dr. Silenth of the Academic Consortium studied Keld's report. This doesn't match our psychological profiles of humans. They should be angry. They should want revenge. Maybe they don't think we're worth the effort, Keld suggested. The room went quiet. The idea that humans might simply not care about the Council was more frightening than human anger would have been. On the insectoid homeworld, Counselor Thix was dealing with a crisis. The planet's defense systems were failing. The orbital platforms that protected them from asteroids and hostile ships had been human-designed. Without maintenance, they were shutting down one by one. How long before complete system failure? Thix asked her military advisor. 6 months, maybe 7, the advisor replied. We could try to build new defenses, but our technology is different. It would take years to design and install new systems. What do other worlds do for defense? Thix asked. Most rely on human patrol fleets, but the humans are gone. The truth was becoming clear across the galaxy. Humans hadn't just been traders and diplomats. They had been the maintenance crew for galactic civilization. They fixed things when they broke. They protected trade routes from pirates. They responded to emergencies while other species formed committees to discuss responses. Now they were gone, and everything was falling apart. The Corvin Hive had noticed the silence too. Their war leaders held a great meeting in their underground cities. Scout reports showed that human patrol, ships no longer guarded the neutral zone. Human rapid response, fleets no longer protected Council worlds. The humans have abandoned their allies, the Hive Queen declared. This is our opportunity. We can reclaim the territories they stole from us. Within days, Corvin raiders struck 3 Council worlds. The attacks were swift and brutal. The Corvins had learned from their defeats by human forces. They hit hard and retreated before local defenses could respond. The Council's own military tried to respond, but their forces moved slowly. Each attack required approval from 12 different species. Each species had different ideas about tactics. By the time they agreed on a response plan, the Corvin raiders were already gone. Worse, pirates were emerging from hiding. For 50 years, human patrol fleets had kept the trade routes safe. Now merchant ships traveled in fear. Many stopped traveling at all. The galaxy was becoming dangerous again. The careful peace that the Council had maintained was cracking. And somewhere beyond the outer rim, humans were building their own civilization. They didn't seem to miss their old neighbors at all. Veltar stood in his crystal tower again. 6 months had passed. The gardens below still looked peaceful, but reports from across the galaxy told a different story. Systems failing, trade collapsing, pirates raiding, enemies attacking. Perhaps we should send a message, his assistant suggested. An invitation to return to negotiations. Veltar's crystal body dimmed. He had been wrong about humans. They weren't emotional children who needed guidance. They had been the adults in the room, keeping everything working while the council talked and planned and debated. Send the message, he said quietly. The message went out through the galaxy's communication networks. It was polite and diplomatic. It suggested that perhaps there had been misunderstandings. It hinted that new negotiations might be possible. The networks carried the message to the edge of known space. Then they carried it beyond into the darkness where humans had gone. The response came back 3 days later. It was very short. Message undeliverable. Recipient unknown. The humans had disappeared so completely that even their communication addresses were gone. The council had pushed them away and they had walked so far that they couldn't be found again. The first real disaster happened on Raxus Prime. The planet fed 12 billion people across 4 different species. Its massive agricultural systems could grow food in any climate, convert any organic matter into nutrition, and produce clean water from almost nothing. But they were all human-designed. Manager Vexhai was a Raxian with green-scaled skin and worried eyes. He stood in the control center watching red warning lights flash across dozens of screens. The agricultural systems were failing one by one. First, the water processors stopped working. Then the soil enrichment plants went offline. Finally, the climate control systems began shutting down. How much time do we have? Asked his assistant, a young Raxian named Kildart. The emergency food reserves will last 2 months, Vexhai replied. Maybe 3 if we ration strictly. After that, he didn't finish the sentence. Both Raxians knew what came after that. Famine, starvation, the collapse of their civilization. What about the repair teams? Kildart asked. They tried for weeks. The human systems don't follow normal logic. Every time our engineers think they understand something, it does the opposite of what it should do. Vexhai touched one of the failing screens. The humans who built this called it intuitive engineering. They said it was about feeling how machines should work, not calculating it. Desperate messages went out from Raxus Prime to the Council. They needed help immediately. They needed engineers, food supplies, and new equipment. But the Council's response was slow and confused. The Veltari wanted to form a study committee to research the best approaches to helping Raxus Prime. The Nethians suggested holding conferences with nutrition experts from all 12 Council species. The academic consortium proposed gathering data on agricultural failures throughout galactic history. While they debated, people on Raxus Prime started getting hungry. Similar crises were erupting across Council space. The Veltari faced their own nightmare when the Crystal Mines research station began failing. This wasn't just any station. It was the heart of Veltari civilization, where their collective consciousness processed the thoughts and dreams of billions of crystal beings. The station used quantum computers that human scientists had built 50 years earlier. The computers required precise molecular adjustments every 72 hours. Only human technicians had known how to make these adjustments. Without them, the quantum field started becoming unstable. High Crystalline Velsha was the oldest and wisest of her people. She had lived for 3,000 years and had never felt fear. But as she watched the quantum computers failing, she felt something close to panic. What happens if the crystal mines go dark? She asked the chief technician. Our collective consciousness will fracture, he replied. His crystal body was flickering with stress patterns. Every Veltari will become isolated in their own mind. We will lose what makes us who we are. The technician had been trying for months to understand the human quantum computers. The humans built these machines like they build everything else. They ignored the theoretical limits. They made quantum states stable that should be impossible. Our best scientists can't figure out how. On the outer rim of Council space, the situation was even worse. Corvin raiders had grown bold. They attacked merchant ships, destroyed mining stations, and captured entire colonies. Their war fleets moved fast and hit hard, then disappeared before help could arrive. The Council's joint military forces tried to respond, but their cooperation was falling apart. Each species had different ideas about tactics. The Veltari wanted to negotiate with the Corvins. The aquatic depths believed in defensive strategies only. The insectoids insisted on attacking in massive coordinated swarms. General Krixtal was a Zephyrian with purple skin and 4 arms. He had been chosen to lead the combined Council fleet, because he was supposed to be good at working with different species, but the reality was driving him crazy. "The Corvin attack fleet is here," he announced at a strategy meeting. He pointed to a star map showing enemy positions. "They have 40 ships. We can intercept them with 60 ships if we leave now." "We should negotiate first," said the Veltari representative. "Violence only creates more violence." "Our fleet composition is wrong," argued the insectoid commander. "We need more small ships working together, not these big individual vessels." "Defensive positions would be better," suggested the Aquatic Depths Admiral. "Let them come to us." By the time they agreed on a plan, the Corvin raiders had attacked 3 more colonies and disappeared again. The worst part was the reports coming from human space. Independent traders who traveled to the Outer Rim brought back stories that made the council members sick with envy. A freelance pilot named Zara had visited New Geneva, one of the human colonies beyond the Outer Rim. When she returned, she shared her observations with anyone who would listen. "They're not just surviving out there," she told a crowd at a spaceport bar. "They're thriving. New Geneva has grown from 2 million people to 15 million in just 8 months. They've got orbital cities, underwater farms, and mining operations that stretch across 3 moons. "How is that possible?" asked a Raxian trader. "They don't waste time on committees and approvals," Zara replied. "Someone has a good idea, they try it. If it works, they expand it. If it doesn't work, they try something else. Simple." More disturbing reports followed. The humans had made contact with 3 new species beyond the Outer Rim. All 3 had joined something called the Terran Federation. Nobody knew exactly what this federation was, but it was growing fast. "The new species aren't human," reported Captain Threx, an independent survey ship pilot. "But they work together like they've known each other for centuries. I saw aquatic-type beings working alongside insect-like creatures and gas-form entities. They were building a space station together, and nobody was arguing about the design." Dr. Silenth of the Academic Consortium studied these reports carefully. What she found scared her. "The humans aren't trying to recreate the council," she reported. "They're building something completely different. Something that actually works." The evidence was everywhere. While the council debated how to help Raxus Prime, human food ships had already arrived there. The humans didn't ask for permission from anyone. They didn't hold meetings about whether Raxus Prime deserved help. They just helped. How did they know we needed assistance? Vexhai asked the human captain who delivered the first food shipment. "We monitor all the agricultural systems we built," Captain Torres replied. "When they started failing, we loaded relief supplies. Basic decency." "But we're not allies anymore," Vexhai pointed out. "The Council and humanity are no longer partners." Captain Torres shrugged. "The Council isn't allies with humanity. That doesn't mean individual worlds can't be friends. Politics is politics. Hunger is hunger." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. When the Crystal Mines research station began failing, human technicians arrived to fix it. They didn't ask permission from the Council. They certainly didn't ask for payment. They just fixed the problem and left. "Why?" High Crystalline Velsha asked them. "Why help us when our government treated you so badly?" "Because if we don't help, millions of Veltari will suffer," replied the lead technician, a human woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "We don't punish innocent people for their leaders' mistakes." The Council watched helplessly as individual worlds began reaching out to humanity directly. They couldn't stop it. They couldn't provide better alternatives. Their own systems were failing, their military couldn't maintain order, and their bureaucracy was too slow to respond to crises. Meanwhile, beyond the Outer Rim, the Terran Federation kept growing. The humans had learned something important from their time with the Council. They had seen what happened when different species tried to work together through committees and consensus. They had built something better. Reports suggested that the Federation operated on simple principles. Member species kept their own governments and cultures, but when problems arose that affected everyone, they worked together directly. No committees, no lengthy debates, just cooperation between people who respected each other. The galaxy was splitting in 2. On one side was the Council, with their careful procedures, their cultural sensitivity, and their peaceful debates. On the other side was the Federation, with their rapid responses, their practical solutions, and their willingness to act. And every day, more worlds were choosing the Federation over the Council. Veltar Moonwhisper stood in his crystal tower again. The reports on his desk told the story clearly. The Council was losing control. Their military was ineffective. Their infrastructure was failing. Their member worlds were looking elsewhere for leadership. Perhaps we should try to contact them again, his assistant suggested. Veltar's crystal body grew dim. And say what? That we were wrong? That we need them more than they need us? If it's true, then yes. Veltar was quiet for a long time. Outside his window, the peaceful garden stretched to the horizon. Everything looked the same as it had for thousands of years. But the rest of the galaxy was changing, and the Council was being left behind. 1 year had passed since the humans walked away. What the Council had called a tantrum had become something much more serious. Dr. Silenth of the Academic Consortium sat in her research chamber, surrounded by data screens and report files. Her 6 bird-like eyes moved quickly as she read through intelligence, reports from human space. The news was not good for the Council. High Counselor, she called to Veltar, Moon Whisper through the communication system. You need to see these reports immediately. The situation has changed completely. Veltar arrived within the hour, his crystal body dim with worry. Other Council leaders joined them through hollow projection. General Krixtal appeared as a purple-skinned image. Counselor Thix manifested as a clicking insectoid shape. Zevhi's water tank was wheeled into the room. What have you learned? Veltar asked. Dr. Silenth activated her main display. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with different colored dots representing various political entities. The Council's territory was marked in blue, but a huge section of the outer rim glowed red. The humans haven't just survived, she began. They've built an empire. The Terran Federation now controls 47 star systems. They have a unified military that's larger than our entire Council fleet. And they're still growing. General Krixtal leaned forward. 47 systems in 1 year? That's impossible. Not for humans, Dr. Silenth replied. They don't spend months debating whether to establish a colony. They scout a system, determine if it's suitable, and start building. No committees. No approval processes. No cultural impact studies. She changed the display to show military strength comparisons. The numbers were frightening. Human naval architecture focused on modular design and rapid deployment. Each ship could operate independently for months without supply support. Council vessels, by contrast, required constant logistics chains and could only function as part of large battle groups. In a direct military confrontation, General Krixtal admitted, we would be fighting an enemy that could strike anywhere, while our forces remain tied to infrastructure bases. They could attack 100 targets while we're still deciding which one to defend. But the military situation wasn't the worst. News. Dr. Silenth activated another display, showing technological development. Human scientists, freed from our oversight and sharing restrictions, have made extraordinary advances, she continued. They've developed quantum-fold communications that allow instant messages across the galaxy. They've perfected zero-point energy extraction, which means unlimited power generation. Intelligence suggests they may have time-dilated research facilities. Time-dilated research? Counselor Thix clicked her mandibles in confusion. What does that mean? Laboratories where time moves differently, Dr. Silenth explained. Researchers could spend years working on problems while only days pass in normal space. It would allow incredibly fast technological development. Zevhi bubbled nervously in his water tank. How is such technology possible? Our greatest scientists work on these problems for centuries without success. Because our scientists work alone or in small groups, Dr. Silenth replied. Human research teams combine multiple species with different ways of thinking. They have human intuition, Veltari mathematical precision, Raxian biological knowledge, and perspectives from species we've never even met. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Council had always prided itself on maintaining each species' cultural purity. They kept different peoples separate to preserve their unique ways of thinking. But humans had taken the opposite approach. They mixed different perspectives together and created something more powerful than any individual species could achieve. There's more, Dr. Silenth continued. The Federation has made contact with 6 new species beyond our exploration range. All of them have voluntarily joined the Human Alliance. None were conquered or forced. She displayed images that intelligence agents had smuggled out of Federation space. The pictures showed incredible diversity. Aquatic beings worked alongside crystalline entities. Gas-form creatures collaborated with insect swarms. Rock-based silicon lifeforms shared laboratories with energy beings. How do they communicate? Asked Veltar. How do they find common ground between such different forms of life? They don't try to eliminate differences, Dr. Silenth explained. They celebrate them. Each species contributes what they do best. The gas form entities excel at long-range sensors. The crystalline beings provide computational power. The insectoids handle manufacturing. The aquatic species manage biological systems, and humans coordinate everything. But Dr. Silenth had saved the worst revelation for last. She pulled up historical data from the Council's own archives. Graphs and charts filled the display, showing patterns from the past century. I analyzed every major crisis we've faced in the last 100 years, she said quietly. Plague outbreaks, natural disasters, first contact situations gone wrong, hostile alien invasions. In every single case, the solutions came from humans. The data was overwhelming. When the crystalline plague threatened to destroy the Veltari, human doctors had developed the cure. When the void spawn invaded from dark space, human military leaders had designed the defense strategy. When the great tsunami devastated the aquatic homeworld, human engineers had built the rescue equipment. We took credit for these victories. Dr. Silenth continued. Council archives list them as collaborative achievements. But the records show that humans provided the crucial breakthroughs every time. We provided committees and oversight. They provided solutions. Veltar's crystal body flickered with shame patterns. Why didn't we see this before? Because humans never demanded recognition, Dr. Silenth replied. They solved problems quietly and let us take credit. They were more interested in results than glory. General Krikstal was studying the military analysis again. His forearms moved in agitated patterns. This explains why our joint operations fail so consistently. We spent 50 years relying on human coordination without realizing it. They handled logistics, resolved conflicts between species, and made tactical decisions that everyone could accept. And now they're gone. Counselor Thix clicked mournfully. The implications were staggering. The Council hadn't just lost a member species. They had lost the species that made their entire system function. Humans had been the glue that held galactic civilization together. What about trade? Zephi asked. Dr. Silenth displayed economic data. Human trade represented 34% of galactic commerce directly. But their actual economic impact was closer to 60% when we account for logistics, maintenance, and emergency services they provided. They weren't just buying and selling goods. They were making the entire trade network function. Can we recover? Veltar asked. Not with our current systems, Dr. Silenth replied honestly. Our committee-based approach works for maintaining stability, but it's terrible for innovation or crisis response. While we debate solutions, problems get worse. While we seek consensus, opportunities disappear. She displayed the latest intelligence from Federation space. Humans have solved problems we're still arguing about. They've terraformed worlds in months instead of decades. They've established peaceful relations with hostile species through direct action, rather than negotiation. They've created technologies we thought were impossible. Then we've lost, General Krikstal said quietly. Militarily? Yes. Economically? Yes. Technologically? Yes. Dr. Silenth's 6 eyes focused on each council leader in turn. But the real loss is philosophical. Humans prove that diverse species can work together effectively without giving up their individual natures. They proved that quick action is often better than perfect consensus. They proved that helping others benefits everyone. What do we do now? Veltar asked. Dr. Silenth closed her displays. We could try to contact them. Admit our mistakes. Ask for help. Would they listen? Counselor Thix wondered. I don't know, Dr. Silenth replied. But consider this. They're still helping individual worlds that ask for assistance. They still provide aid during disasters. They still rescue people in danger. They don't seem interested in conquest or revenge. They just want to build something better. The room was quiet for a long time. Each council member was thinking about the same thing. They had been offered a choice between their careful, stable system and humanity's chaotic, effective approach. They had chosen stability and called it wisdom. But wisdom that couldn't solve problems wasn't really wise at all. Peace that couldn't protect people wasn't really peaceful, and a civilization that drove away its most productive members wasn't really civilized. I'll draft a message to the Federation, Veltar said finally. What will it say? Dr. Silenth asked. Veltar's crystal body grew brighter with determination. The truth, that we were wrong, that we need their help, that we're willing to change. But even as he spoke, all of them wondered the same thing. Was it already too late? The message from the Galaxy Council arrived on a Tuesday morning at Federation headquarters. The building sat on New Geneva, surrounded by gardens where species from 12 different worlds lived and worked together. Ambassador Sarah Chen read the message twice before calling her staff. They want to negotiate, she told Captain Torres, who had been promoted to Director of Interspecies Relations. Full diplomatic contact. They're offering to discuss our previous concerns. Torres laughed, but there was no humor in it. 18 months too late. What brought this on? Probably the fact that 17 more worlds left the Council last month, Sarah replied. She pulled up a galactic map showing the current political situation. The Council's blue territory had shrunk dramatically. The Federation's red territory now covered nearly half the galaxy's populated regions. Should we respond? Torres asked. Sarah looked out her window. In the courtyard below, human children played with young Raxians, Veltari crystals, and creatures from species the Council had never even met. They laughed together, learned together, and built things together. This was what cooperation looked like when it wasn't forced through committees. Yes, she said finally, but not the way they expect. The Federation's response went out through every communication network in the galaxy. It wasn't addressed to the Council leadership. It was broadcast to every world, every species, and every individual who might be listening. To all people seeking a better future, the message began. The Terran Federation extends an invitation to any world that wishes to join a civilization based on cooperation, innovation, and mutual respect. The message continued with specific details that made scientists across the galaxy weep with joy. Technical specifications for FTL networks that could connect distant worlds instantly. Medical advances that had eliminated death from aging across 14 different biologies. Terraforming techniques that could transform dead worlds into paradises in mere decades. But the most devastating part was the simplicity of Federation membership requirements. We ask only 3 things: contribute what you can. Help when others need it. Respect the rights of all thinking beings. No cultural transformation required. No committee approvals needed. No surrender of sovereignty demanded. The message ended with an address. Any world interested in membership may contact us directly. We don't require permission from galactic authorities to accept friends. Within hours, the Council's communication networks were overwhelmed with messages from their own member worlds. The Raxian government was the first to respond officially. The Raxian Republic formally requests Federation membership. Their message stated, "Humanity saved our people when our own government failed us. We choose to stand with those who act rather than those who debate." Manager Vexahai, who had lived through the agricultural crisis, appeared on public broadcasts across Raxus Prime. "The Council held meetings while our children went hungry," he said. "The Federation sent food. The choice is obvious. The Raxian vote was unanimous. Within a week, Federation engineers were upgrading their failing agricultural systems with new technology that wouldn't break down. Federation teachers were sharing advanced techniques with Raxian farmers. Federation medical teams were providing healthcare that the Council had never been able to offer. Other worlds followed quickly. The outer colonies of the aquatic depths declared independence and joined the Federation. 3 Veltari crystal worlds voted to leave their homeworld government behind. Even some insectoid colonies broke away from Councillor Thix's authority. In each case, the pattern was the same. Federation representatives arrived within days. They brought aid, technology, and expertise. They didn't ask for payment or political concessions. They just helped. The Council tried to respond, but their system was too slow and too complicated. By the time they approved aid packages, the worlds in crisis had already been helped by the Federation. By the time they offered trade agreements, Federation commerce was already flowing. Veltar Moonwhisper stood in his crystal tower, watching his civilization crumble around him. 3 more Veltari worlds had voted to join the Federation that morning. His own people were abandoning the system their ancestors had built over millennia. Why? He asked High Crystalline Velsha, one of the few elders who still supported the old ways. Why choose chaos over order? Why choose uncertainty over peace? Because order without purpose is meaningless, she replied. Her ancient crystal body was dim with sadness. Because peace without progress is death. The Federation offers our young people something we never could, hope for a better future. But they'll lose their cultural identity, Veltar protested. They'll become like humans. I've been studying Federation worlds, Velsha said quietly. The Veltari, there are more Veltari than ever. They explore mathematical concepts we never imagined. They create crystal art that makes our finest works look primitive. They haven't lost their identity. They've expanded it. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Federation worlds weren't becoming copies of human civilization. They were becoming the best versions of themselves. Humans had created a system where different species could keep their own cultures while working together on shared goals. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Captain Zara, the independent pilot who had first reported on Federation success, released a documentary called Two Civilizations. It compared daily life on Council worlds with life on Federation worlds. The contrast was devastating. On Council worlds, people waited months for permits to start businesses. On Federation worlds, good ideas became reality within weeks. Council citizens spent years in committees before making decisions. Federation citizens acted quickly and adjusted if they were wrong. But the most damaging part showed how the two systems handled crises. When a plague broke out on a Council world, the government formed study groups and requested reports. When the same plague appeared on a Federation world, medical teams were treating patients within hours while researchers worked around the clock to find a cure. The Council talks about wisdom and patience, Zara narrated over footage of empty committee chambers. But what good is patience when people are suffering? What good is wisdom that produces no solutions? The documentary ended with interviews from people who had left Council worlds for Federation territory. A young Veltari scientist spoke about pursuing research that would have required decades of approval back home. A Raxian engineer described building things that helped people instead of filling out forms. An insectoid artist talked about creating new forms of expression that mixed different cultural traditions. We didn't lose our heritage, the artist said. We found out what our heritage could become. Public opinion across the galaxy shifted decisively. Polls on Council worlds showed massive support for Federation membership. Even on the Council homeworlds, younger generations were demanding change. The end came not with war or conquest, but with irrelevance. The Council still existed, governing 9 species across 43 worlds. They still held their committees, maintained their cultural sensitivity protocols, and made their consensus-based decisions. But nobody cared anymore. The galaxy had moved on. The Federation now included 37 species across 215 worlds. Their trade networks spanned half the galaxy. Their exploration fleets were making contact with new species every month. Their research stations were solving problems the Council hadn't even recognized existed. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, looking out at the construction of humanity's latest project, a massive shipyard that would be crewed by 17 different species. Each species would contribute their unique skills to building vessels more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Any regrets? Asked Captain Torres, who had joined her for the view. About leaving the Council? None at all, Sarah replied. We offered them partnership. They demanded submission. They got exactly what they asked for, a galaxy without human interference. Think they learned anything? Sarah watched a construction team of humans, Raxians, and Veltari crystals working together to install a new quantum drive. They moved with practiced efficiency, each understanding their role in the larger project. Some of them did, she said. The ones who mattered chose to join us. The ones who didn't matter are still holding meetings to discuss why they don't matter anymore. The irony was perfect. The Council had wanted to protect galactic civilization from human influence. Instead, they had created a situation where human influence spread further and faster than ever before. By trying to contain humanity, they had set it free to build something better. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the price of arrogance. When you tell competent people they're not wanted, they don't just leave. They take their competence with them. And competence, once lost, is almost impossible to replace. The Council still existed, safe in their committees and consensus building. They had achieved their dream of a galaxy without human interference. They just hadn't expected that galaxy to become so small, so quiet, and so utterly irrelevant to the future of civilization. Meanwhile, Beyond their shrinking borders, the real galaxy was getting bigger every day. New worlds, new species, new discoveries, and new possibilities emerged constantly.